Welcome to Health System CIO's HIMSS conference preview interview with Mike Mistretta, SVP and CIO with VHC Health. I'm Anthony Guerra, founder and editor-in-chief. Mike, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Anthony.
All right, very good. Mike, I reached out because I know you were speaking at the upcoming HIMSS conference. Session is opening the digital front door to transform outpatient care, which is interesting, right? Specifically outpatient care. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me about your session, why you picked this particular topic, and your thoughts on the overall issue at hand.
Yeah, so where this initiated for us is we had an imperative where we were actually building a new outpatient pavilion building. And the architects in their infinite wisdom looked at the building and actually built it with a, quote, digital design in mind. So what does that mean? There's no patient waiting rooms or anything like that in there. So the flow of these facilities needs to be pretty seamless and streamlined out there so that we don't get patients backed up in the lobby waiting that's there. It's a 5-acre complex that's there. It has all the outpatient services. It has physician offices, outpatient surgery, radiology, lab, all the things you would do at an outpatient, center that's in that building that's there. So we had to come up with a process and to streamline that registration flow. And basically we blew up our registration and scheduling processes out there to accommodate the building architecture that was there. And, with the mass migration of services to an ambulatory setting to an outpatient setting, I thought it was pretty timely to be able to put something that's together and share with my peers about what people are doing out there.
Very good. So let's dig into that a little bit. You mentioned architects. Were you, as a CIO, involved in discussions with the architects at all?
Well, to a high level degree, but the actual design of the floor in the building, not so much. That was more of our facilities management people, and the clinicians actually designed a lot of their floor space and how they wanted things to go and look. So by the time we got involved as an ISIT organization, that footprint was set. So it was, how do we deal with this to be able to give them the flow and throughput and the cycle times for the patients and the data access so they actually can know what's going on their floors and in their units that are there.
I'm just trying to think through the chicken or egg thing here. So you're saying the design spoke to a more seamless flow of patients. So the design did not include a waiting room? Is that what you said?
That's not. There are no waiting rooms in that building at all.
So the concept was things had to function differently.
Correct.
And do you suppose that the idea was they knew enough that this will work if the proper technologies are put in place? Is that the idea? I mean, I'm thinking like best practice here may be for Mike not to get this after it's set, for Mike to get to talk to the architect and say, okay, with the physicians and everybody to sit down and say, okay, what do we envision here?
Yeah.
And like, so tell me, was there a little bit of you getting handed something and then having to work with it? It may have been more optimal if you were involved earlier. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid situation.
Yeah.
So all of our practices are on what we call the Virginia Mason model. So what does that mean? Basically, it's a throughput mechanism for the patients and how the physician sees the patients, and it's one-stop shopping for the patient. So as they design their footprint, the exam rooms, for example, have entries and exit points on two sides. So there's a corridor for the clinicians to come up and down, and there's a corridor for the patients to come up and down. So they do all of their things. It's one-touch shopping. So when the patient comes into the building, they are greeted by what we call an ambassador. We've retermed that. We know because of digital technologies that we put into place that they've actually arrived on campus. We know they have a tablet and they can see that the patient's there. If they've done their homework, as we call it, In other words, the patient used our app or our portal to sign all of their registration forms, do their pre-check-in, all of that kind of stuff. They basically go straight back to the exam room at that point in time. The physician, as they're going through, they see the patient there and in their room, and there's a board, a tracking board in each one of the places, so they know when the patient's in the room and where they are in the status. It's just like you would in an emergency department, although it's in the practice in this case, or in radiology or wherever it is that they're doing it. They have the tracking boards that are there, and they do whatever it is they need to see the patient through their visit. They do the documentations in the room with thin client devices that are there and access to our systems. And then before the patient leaves, the MA comes in and does all of their follow-up care scheduling. So they have printers in the room, they print any scripts, they do anything that's there. It's all in the room-based care that's there. If they need to schedule a referral out to an orthopedic surgeon, for example, for something, or a cardiologist, whatever, that's all pre-scheduled for them, or those requests are at least sent in and they have a record of it. And print it off, hand it to the patient. When they're done, they're escorted out and they're gone at that point. The checkout is actually in the room. The check-in is basically dynamic when they come in if they've done their homework. So the flow is pretty seamless where they go back and forth in between. Now, that architecture of the building was given to us. All of the workflows there, we had to figure out how we're going to develop and what we're going to do to get to some of those. So we've used technologies that aren't typically in most healthcare systems to do some of this, facial recognition, geofencing, things like that, as a part of the solution that's there. And some things that we've stolen from some other health systems, bits and pieces, and put it together. So we had a comprehensive solution to be able to meet the needs of what that new facility is.
Very interesting. So it's it's sort of a reimagining of the whole patient experience process in an outpatient setting,
100%.
with a lot of technology peppered on.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, I still think that they should have said that. I still think, listen, you know how important technology is. Technology is healthcare. And again, so you had a pretty greenfield environment, but to get even greener on the field, I like the idea
Yeah.
of the CIO sitting down with the architect and the clinicians so we can all reimagine this together, because there could, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, I'm sure it's an excellent thing, but we always talk about this in many different respects.
100%.
Involve IT at the beginning. Involve IT security at the beginning. Get everybody in at the beginning. Don't hand us something half-baked, because then we got to work around it, work through it. We'll make it work because we're IT folks.
That's what we
And
do.
we know how to solve problems. What we do,
Yeah.
not me, but you guys.
Yeah.
And I still think that, hey, listen, in a perfect world, would you say it would have been nice for you to sit down with the architect and the other folks? Would that have been even better?
Huge. Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, even with the design that we had, as we went live the first week of the building and stuff, and we did our technical dress rehearsals and stuff like that, there were changes that were being made just because there were things that we didn't know going into it. And had we been on, where some of the medical gases and stuff like that are in some of the rooms for the outpatient surgery, some of those kinds of things, would have changed probably some of our flow and some of our design. So yeah, in the ideal state, absolutely, I'd love to be on the front end of a building, where I can pre-design a DAS system where I have ubiquitous wireless throughout, and it works with cellular at the same time and all of that stuff. But that's just, I want you to come talk to my board so I get that opportunity next time.
Well, here's what they gotta understand, and here's what people are coming to understand, is that I'm going to help you make it better, right?
Sure.
If you bring me in the beginning, I'm going to help you make it better. I don't know if it's the concern that you're going to shoot things down. Certainly when we talk security, why do we want to leave security out of the loop? Oh, they're just going to muck it up and slow it down. That's the old school thinking. But what they need to understand is that for the true CIOs, the true executives, we're going to make it better. I'm going to give you guys ideas you didn't even think of, right?
That's right. And then you layer on top of that, a better design becomes better adoption, which becomes better ROI, which becomes a better patient experience at the end of the day. That's out there. So the further we get in on the front of these things, the better the answer is for everybody.
Right, because I'm also going to bring up things you didn't even know existed, right?
For
Because I'm in the
sure.
market and I know about this stuff. So you say, "Oh, we're going to do this manually. This is partly manual," and you go, "Hold on a minute. I think there's something out there that
Yeah,
I've seen," right? So anyway, that's I'm preaching to the choir. I think,
you
right?
are 100%.
Choir. Let's keep preaching. All right. Well, that sounds like an excellent session, and I hope people will go to that. So we'll definitely direct people to it. Um, let's talk a little bit about the shows. Let's in general. You go to a show like this, HIMSS. You're going to talk. That's why maybe the main reason you're going. I don't know if you would be going anyway, but since you're going, what are your other objectives? What are maybe some other things you want to accomplish? I've heard people say, well, I'm going to check out some new vendors, or I've got some meetings set up with existing vendors, or I'm going to catch a few sessions. What are you going to try and do when
Yeah,
you're out there?
it's a mixture of all of that. You take advantage of everything that these shows have to offer. For us, I have existing vendors. We have projects that we've got going on. I've been doing this long enough now where the show has evolved for sure in the last 20, 25 years that I've been doing this. And it used to be I could have my project list and I could go to HIMSS and we could sit down and meet with each one of them and kind of sketch out the year. Well, unfortunately, the vendors aren't bringing those types of people to the shows anymore. They're bringing predominantly more of the demo people and sales people. The technical people and the project managers, things like that, aren't necessarily going. So now it's more of, okay, I have a problem set of things that are pain points. And one example I'll give you is faxing results back in. So when I go out, I'm looking for people who can help with that solution that's out there. Give me a solution on how I can better manage my fax pool for 200, 250 physician practice that's out there, and how do I get those results routed efficiently to them. So last year we found a vendor on the floor that we've now implemented actually in the last couple of months, that's doing that with and the initial results are phenomenal. So as more of looking for problem solutions, I guess, as we're looking for vendors, not necessarily specific vendors. So it's interesting how it's evolved. That's out there. If there are existing vendors and projects that we have going on and we have pre-arranged meetings, we'll do that as well. That's there. And then, of course, a lot of my staff go for the education type sessions and things like that are going.
So it's interesting. You mentioned a specific problem that you're trying to solve for.
Yeah,
And you're probably, when people listen to this, you're probably going to get outreach from people that have that type of solution, which
yeah,
kind of is good in a
yeah,
way.
yeah.
For 100% of the vendors out there, they've got a solution to a problem, and they don't particularly know who has that problem, so they try and get in front of everybody to see.
That's right.
And that's why you get hit with a lot of outreach, and that can be difficult to manage. Um, and the show's another thing where you're in person and, the exhibit floor, you may be trying to walk around. Some people are more aggressive than others. I don't know. What do you want salespeople to know? Because let's talk about online and in person. They're trying to do a job. They want to get in front of you,
Yeah,
but they can do it in a way, they can do it in a way that ruins their chances of ever doing business with you.
1,000%.
So, so, tell me sort of a best practice for outreach.
For me, everybody's a little different with this, but I like a lot of exploratory discussions. So show me what you have to offer. Show me what your solution set is that's out there. Great. If I have something, I'll let you know. And if I have more than one or two of those with you, and I don't have something that I'm at, then I'm going to at least keep you in my Rolodex that's there. I've had decision support vendors as an example that I've known for years. I've done business with them a couple of times, a couple of different health systems, not necessarily fit today where I am, but I know what they have, I know what they can help me with, and I know what they're there for. So to me, that's part of the thing too, is building that relationship understanding capabilities so that when I do need somebody, that's there. But I don't need someone sending me an email once a week for the next 6 months trying to get something in. That's probably the biggest turnoff, frankly, to your point of how not to get in the door. That's probably it. That's
Over persistence.
absolutely, yeah. You know, if I'm interested and I know your capabilities, you know, we'll be in contact. We'll be there.
But Mike, there's no way, there's too many vendors out there for you to give everyone a full hearing.
Absolutely.
For, so what do they what do they need to understand? You just said like, yeah, I want to hear what you have and then I'll know what you have going forward. But you
Right.
can't do that. It's impossible. There's too
Well, it's
many.
not just me, right?
What's that?
I have staff too that are the
Uh-huh.
same way.
Okay.
You know, when we go to HIMSS, I have, I want to say 4 directors that are going with me, and each one of them has their areas that they're looking at as well. And, you know, it's the same principle. So there is some trickle down or
Okay.
trickle up, depending on how
Okay.
you look at it. That's there, but it's impossible to hit everybody. You're correct. That's there, but at the same time, I only have so much time to spend with folks. So usually it's going to be around a problem that I either perceive or that someone's told me about, and so I'm going to be looking at those, multifaceted solutions also get higher play. So if I can repurpose a solution for more than one thing or more than one problem, that's a huge win. That's out
Um, 1 second, I'm writing that down. Uh, and I heard, so you talk about multifaceted solutions get higher play. I
there.
did an interview the other day with someone who said
Yeah.
uh, solutions. I think he meant that as well, but he specifically said one-off niche solutions are really not usually going to work. I want, I need things that are integrated with other things I have. And if you come to me and tell me you've pre-integrated with things I have, that's a lot better, right?
That's
Does that
correct.
make
That's
sense?
absolutely correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, niche has its market. It's out there, but they're usually going to be small point solutions that you're going to solving a very, very specific problem if there's no other option. That's there. We
Yeah,
absolutely made the decision, I want to say about 6 years ago, at least at this health system, that integration will override functionality every time.
yeah, yeah. Yep, yep. So the message there for the vendors is, um, you know, I guess when you're trying to get your hearing with you, so to speak, be patient, be respectful. If you get that hearing, you better put your best foot forward because you got one opportunity. So don't blow it. Don't send somebody junior.
That's right.
Don't waste my time. Don't not show up. Don't be. These are all basic things to be successful. So when
And
you
and
get
and
your,
know
go ahead.
and just as much know your audience, right?
Hmm.
An example, we had a vendor in a couple weeks ago. Cool product, but honestly, it was more of they're a little bit of a startup, and they didn't understand how to demo to healthcare, so didn't play well with the clinicians and stuff.
That's what I mean about putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, yeah,
Like if you mistake the value of this and the one-time element of this opportunity, and
yeah.
you don't put like there is no, hey, okay, it didn't go that great today. Let's catch up again. No, 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 no. I don't have time for that. Like you said,
That's
I
right.
had a million vendors. You had your shot.
That's
You
right.
blew it. Have a nice day. Is that kind of
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty
this
much.
is life. This is life. We have to
Yeah,
learn. We
yeah,
have to learn that people's time is very valuable.
yeah.
All right, a final question because I don't want to keep it too long today.
Sure.
Um, the hymns Vive. Listen, this is new. This is interesting. The HIMSS Vive dynamic. You had one big show with HIMSS. Everybody went to it
Yeah,
every year. It was a no-brainer, unless you couldn't travel for some reason. Now we got two within 3 weeks of each other. Two
yeah,
big shows.
yeah,
So from your point of view as a CIO, I assume my assumptions. Very few people in your position can go to both, considering how close they are together. Some can, but not too many. And then you're in a position of having to pick, and there could be different factors you take into play when doing that. But your thoughts on this now two show dynamic?
well, it is kind of a shame to put it that way that divorce happened, but it happened, so it is what it is, and now we're dealing with it in an industry. And They are. I am finding them to be. Yeah, last year I did both for the first time just to check them both out and see what is there. I'm actually doing both again this year. I'm not sure that'll continue to your point of availability. But certainly I look at the Vive end of it as more of a true digital solution set. And when I say that, I'm looking for things more portal and app oriented and things like that that are there. When I look at HIMSS, I'll call it more of a heavy lifting, right? Core functionalities, EMRs, things that are integrated, that are integration engines, things like that, that are kind of the bigger things that are there. So that's how I see the two shows right now. Vive also tends, at least my last year, had more startups and people just trying to figure out the way they go and how they get into the thing. They have that, I call it the speed dating piece. And I know HIMSS is trying that this year for the first time. But that was very interesting because I got a lot of startups and a lot of people who are just trying to figure out how to get into the business and trying to figure out how to get into this market and stuff. In some cases, venture capitalist people that are trying to figure out what they should be looking for, things like that. Whereas this HIMSS is more established, I think, and the vendors that are there are, like I said, the larger ones typically that you're looking for different products. So there is a little bit of a differentiation I see between the two right now. Even the vendors, when I talk to my vendor friends and partners, they say they pick teams. I'm either going this way or I'm going this way because a lot of them can't afford both shows either because those shows are very expensive for them to exhibit at. And so, to some degree, that's when my mental model anyway, when I talk about how they differentiate, that's also, it's kind of driven down those passes when I talk to the vendors that are there.
Well, I know we're going to catch up after the show, and that'll be after HIMSS and Vive. So we'll get your updated feelings on whether or not you still have the same opinion on the differentiation, and we'll see how they went. So
sounds great.
Mike, I appreciate your time so much. This was perfect. Thank you.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Anthony.